of the Vietnam War. During the 10 years of the Vietnam War, the federal government spent hardly no money on education. That created a problem because now it means that the grandparents that are having to provide for many grandchildren, they don't have the background and the basis to be able to help those kids with school and other things that they face. So that contributes to the disconnect with the young people, because even if they're at home and they have somewhere to stay, they don't have that ushering to help them. That's why everybody's falling in love with the library. Remember, the library's big thing was they're going to have computers there, and they can get on the computer and do everything just like they do at school. Okay, well, the problem is at the library, conduct-wise, you have to separate the children's section from the adult section.
Yes.
That makes it a lot more expensive now to build a library. And you need to have a conference room. The reason for having a conference room is so you can have it as a meeting place, so that people can come in. So we are really trying to build a circle, what I call a circle of faith, and we're trying to include all those components in that circle of faith so we can look after our own. Okay? Look at the Indians and look at the Africans. Look at the whole village tribal thing. Remember we say it takes a village to raise a child?
Exactly.
All those cultural groups, they maintain 100% leadership and control over their youngsters. They don't allow them to stray away from the nest. Anybody that's never been to Africa, and people tell jokes about the different leaders in Africa, the chiefs, about them having 12 and 14 wives. And of course, being from the U.S., we don't know any better, so we started laughing, and the guy said, "Wow, 14 wives, man, wow." Okay.
They had to take care of those 14 wives.
And it is mandated that all of them has to be taken care of equally. Okay? But it also, the structure of supporting the village, if you have these different wives in different areas and overseeing all these, then you don't have one individual trying to run 3 different programs. You know, it's a beautiful thing, and we're talking about third world country.
Yes.
We talk about a place that have no electricity, just now is getting running water because we're going over there and putting in running water. We're upgrading the farming and the growth of food and stuff to help support those countries. So culturally, we need to understand what are our priorities. What's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? If we can get that straight, if we can get to 4, if we can concentrate on the faith and the family and the education, and then we add the service part, we home free.
That's
and
right.
as the generations change, you get to pass on something to somebody that is legal and is developmental. The whole voting rights thing, we let that get that deep. It's a shame that we allowed to let that get that deep. If we had been putting pressure on the past governors prior to this one, it never would have gotten to this point. But somebody assumed that that was a cultural thing. Well, the only people that needs that is those Democrats from the inner city. They're the ones that need to get their voting right back, but they're Democrats, so we're not going to give it to them. We're going to wait, okay? But we allowed that to happen. Okay, where's our legacy? How we get to go there? If I ask you today, tomorrow, we'll list some of the pre-filed bills that's already been put in place in Frankfurt. And the pre-filed bills they're going to go to first. how many of us know which bills have been pre-filed that impact and apply to our community? I'd say not very many.
That's true.
We're aware of the horse racing bills. We're aware of the gaming bills. But what about other bills in our community? Is there a bill that relates to our cemeteries across the Commonwealth? Do we have a bill that's being filed to help improve on the railroads? Okay, what benefit do we get as a state and a city from having the railroads come through our community? That's called right-of-way. What does that cost? Okay, do we know, for example, that the railroad tracks at 12th, 15th Street, do we realize there's 3 different railroads that cover and use those tracks? So it's not
I
only
didn't know
one,
that.
It's not only one railroad company that's responsible for that. It's 3. And that's one of the reasons you have a mess with getting them fixed. Because one of them don't want to step out and bite the bullet. It doesn't cost that much, but it's just a responsible thing of what we want to have and what we don't have. When you have one track and you have one responsibility, it's a lot easier to work with. But when we get down past University of Louisville coming west, then we get into a switching yard and we have 3 different railways. It's easy to get them to do, or 4. It's easier to get them. They can get off the hook. One of them will come in and take care of the airport, but you have to hunt and look for the other ones.
And isn't it like big corporate America, and you got to go through that red tape too?
Well, I think one of the things is there's a saying that the wheel that makes the most noise gets the grease and the oil. And we don't holler loud enough about the things that really matter. You know, the flooding of the underpasses. That's atrocious. Okay, not only is the drainage not there, but there's not an ample pumping energy there to get rid of that water. You know, the area, 6 Mile, Breckenridge, or what have you, all that used to be farmland. And there are underground ponds and stuff down there. So when it rains and it floods, it's going to come back up. So if you don't have enough ways of getting it out of there, it's going to create a problem for you. So we're not being angry, we're not throwing bricks, we're just saying that we are putting in place to where we can reach out and communicate with in this area, this state, Southern Indiana, surrounding area. We want to be able to reach out and communicate with 1,000 churches. At election time, we want to be able to say that we've helped to educate a minimum of 10,000 voters.
I saw something last night on CNN about voting, about us as African Americans voting. There was an organization called Black Votes Matter. And how they were talking about how they were trying to get people to the polls, things like that. And also in this special, they were talking to other people in other countries that may not be as developed as ours. That's what stayed on my mind when you were talking about that. And they were talking about how their percentages of people coming out to vote just were astounding. And they were saying, how can we tell another country what to do when we don't have those percentages to vote and we're supposed to be a democracy?
Well, some of the initiatives that drive voting in those countries are ahead of ours. See, we are actually privileged. We're in the comfort zone. So at the time that we vote, a lot of times we don't get to see the impact of what that vote really means. Like the census, for example, when we had public housing and they were going around tallying in the public housing, we had households that were set up for 4 people. The actual numbers in the public housing was like 11 people into the households. and I know this because being involved with Southwick, Carter Homes, and what have you, I knew exactly what the numbers were.
Those are the urban areas here in Kentucky.
And it's just a different kind of dynamics. So if you don't educate people about the impact of the census, if they really don't understand that you need those numbers in order to increase and ask the Commonwealth and ask Washington for more resources, if you don't have the numbers to show that you have needs, it's kind of hard for your legislative and congressional people to stand up and represent you.
That's true.
And that is the reason we need to make sure that we're on our page. I would hope going to an hour and bringing people in, and let me tell you, we've got legislators, heads of different cities, different mayors on both sides of the river. We're going to have them on here, and believe you me, it's going to be fun. Happy 2020. Jumpstart USA, no limits, no time, no nothing. The only thing is faith and family. Our colors are red, white, and blue. We waving the flag, y'all. See you next time.
You have been listening to Commander Jones, host of Jumpstart USA. Join him next week as he talks about all things veterans right here on Jones Media Super Soul Sunday. Always listen at kyheartmedia.com if you missed today, and look forward to him in 2020 with his new show coming on at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 1 hour.